This is a brief video on how you prepare for your educational supervisor's review from the perspective of a trainee. So first you need to log into your portfolio and click on the portfolio. If you go down to the ESR preparation area, so this is where you prepare fully for your educational supervisor's report. Now, as you will have noticed, every time you add a log entry, so a clinical case review or supporting documentation for instance, and you link it to a capability, you will add a little grey lozenge here. And slowly over the period of time, the grey lozenges will increase in size, in number, up to 3. If you go past 3, you'll just get the positive symbol. To prepare for your ESR, you would click on Prepare, and what you're doing is you need to be attaching or attributing pieces of evidence to each capability area. And for each piece of evidence you do this for, these lozenges will turn green. So ideally, before you start preparing for your ESR, you want to make sure that you've covered all of the capabilities along here and you don't leave any gaps, because that means you're going to struggle to find evidence to demonstrate that capability. The other information you need to review before your ESR is reviewing your PDP entries, reviewing your curriculum coverage, and just signing off your health and probity sections. So let's go into the prepare area. And you'll see this is prompting me that I need to rate the capabilities and I need to create at least 3 action plans. You'll see each of the capabilities down here on the left, and then over here you'll see the number of logs within that capability that have been tagged with that capability. So there's 3 learning logs with the capability clinical experience procedural skills attributed to it, and then here are the number of assessments that link to that capability. If you have an MSF, it will also be linked to some capabilities. So you'll need to go into each of these capabilities and attach pieces of evidence. Now, what we would normally expect is a minimum of 3 pieces of evidence per capability, plus some narrative to demonstrate how that evidence demonstrates that capability. So if you've been doing this as you go along, the evidence will appear here for you to automatically tag. But if you haven't, you're going to have to write the evidence here. So evidence for this capability. And so this should demonstrate or explain how this piece of evidence that you've tagged demonstrates that capability. You also need to decide what rating you're going to give yourself. So most of the time you'll be needs further development, below, meets or above expectations. Competent and excellent are really for the end of training. And if it's helpful to have the word descriptors, you click on this positive and you'll be able to see the word descriptor for that capability just here. So if you go down, you'll be able to see all the pieces of evidence that link to that capability, and you'll be able to click on them to go into them to look at a bit more information. Obviously this is a dummy account, so there isn't much there. If you click on include as evidence, it will automatically move that piece of evidence up to here. But obviously there's no narrative because it's just a mini CX. So what you're going to have to do is actually type some reasoning for how this mini CX demonstrates this capability. It won't automatically come across. So you're going to have to look at that, look down at that, a piece of evidence, and say why it explains that piece of evidence. If it's a learning log, which I can show you in some other capabilities, and you've written some reflection of how you've demonstrated it, it will automatically come across. So that one doesn't have any. Let's move across. Communication skills. So here there's a clinical case review, and I've written some evidence to justify that. If I click this box, it will appear up here. So if you've already explained how you've demonstrated the capability in the learning log, it will automatically come across, and you don't necessarily need to elaborate. But you need to make sure that you have enough pieces of evidence, and I would say 3 pieces of evidence are included for each one. Again, you'd have to elaborate here. After you've done that, click Save. If you've entirely finished it and you've added all the pieces of evidence and you don't need to add any more, click Save as Finished. This will lock it from your perspective, so you won't be able to add any more evidence to this capability. Before you do that, just make sure if you need to add 3 action plans. So think about which capabilities you want to add action plans to, and make sure you do that before you save as finished, otherwise it's going to be difficult to add them. So if you want to add an action plan for this capability, you would add it here and then save it. Then save as finished, it would lock it for me. And then if we go back to ESR preparation, you can see that this communication consultation skills, this is the mark I gave myself, this is the narrative and the evidence for it, and the fact that I've locked it off. Now if you want to unlock it, you're going to have to ask your educational supervisor to do this for you. So you need to go through all of these capabilities, make sure that you're gathering the evidence, which are these little pink numbers here, and the action plans that you create will appear here. You've got to make sure you do 3 as a minimum. As I said, you can review the PDP here, or you can do it from the ESR preparation page and sign the declarations. So if we go back to the portfolio overview, as I've added evidence for communication skills, you'll see this is slowly adding up, and the same will happen. So slowly, as you do your ESR preparation, these should all turn green. Once you've turned them all green, then you've got enough evidence for ESR, and it's over to your educational supervisor to do their part.